I'm going to tell you the story about a crazy person who needed to achieve superhuman focus to write two books totaling 180,000 words and launch both within 9 months in the middle of a pandemic. And yes, that crazy person was me. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 4 secrets to achieving superhuman focus so you can apply it to any area of your life, whether it be study, work, or business. And I'll answer the question, do smart drugs really work? Hi, I'm Ben Angel, and I teach people how to biohack their way back to health through my books like Unstoppable, as well as Mind Control and my online programs on biohacking. But first, I've got to share with you the top 3 biggest mistakes people make when it comes to staying focused. They are 1. Applying willpower. Willpower is a short-term tool for key deadlines, but unless you're actively replenishing your brain and ensuring it has key neurotransmitters like dopamine, which I'll get to why that's key in a second, you'll likely burn out and hit decision fatigue where you're so exhausted, even trying to work out what to have for dinner is too much. 2. They write down their goals, which is great and you need to do it. But they fail to understand that a goal is as worthless as a piece of paper it's written on unless you have the energy to pursue it. We've got to address psychology and biology, otherwise, you'll just become frustrated when you see others achieving their goals and you're miles behind them. And 3, they work insanely hard, but because their work doesn't pay off in the time frame they expect, they give up. And I'll address this in a second, but first, we need to get to the first and most influential factor that helped me to write 2 books in 9 months and how it can help you, and that is 1. Energetic regulation. You see, it's not that you don't have enough time to get everything you want done, it's that you don't have a strong, consistent flow of energy that allows you to do 3 to 4 hours of hyper-focused work at a time. And this next part is going to have a massive impact on your ability to focus. When we experience food cravings or stress, a fight or flight response is triggered. This takes blood away from our prefrontal cortex, which controls a myriad of executive functions, including complex behaviors like coordination, impulse control, emotional reactions, personality, focus, organizing, complex planning, and prioritizing simultaneous information. This sets up a nasty cycle. Our blood sugar drops, our cravings increase, and our cortisol spikes, limiting our ability to control our impulses, attention, and emotional reactions. We reach for sweet or highly refined carbohydrates, and our blood sugar increases, followed later by a sudden drop, which results in brain fog, inability to focus, loss of motivation, and the inability to reach our goals. You can do a few things to manage this, including limiting sugar, processed carbs, while boosting your intake of healthy and satiating fats like avocado and almond butter, especially on the days you need to give it your all. You also want to address caffeine intoxication. Caffeine is a phenomenal tool to help you focus, but in higher doses, or if you're overly sensitive to it, it can trigger anxiety and your fight or flight response. You become frantic and unfocused. When you combine caffeine with nootropics or smart drugs, you'll be more focused than you've ever been before. But before we get to that, let's discuss tip number 2, flow state. Flow state is where you lose track of time. 4 hours of hyper focus and deeper meaningful work feels like 5 minutes. Think about a time in your life when you experienced it. Everything felt seamless. You got more done in 4 hours than in 8. You worked on your goals free from distractions. Not only does flow state have advantages such as better emotional regulation, greater enjoyment and happiness, and increased engagement and performance, it's also linked to intrinsic motivation. This helps to drive you across the finish line without the need for willpower or burnout. To enter a flow state, you need to do at least 10 to 20 minutes of daily training or meditation. This could be as simple as staring at a spot in the distance or taking deep breaths in and out. Researchers from the University of Washington have shown that just 10 to 20 minutes of meditation a day can help to improve your focus and extend your attention span. New research has found that these benefits may be due to increased dopamine levels in the brain. When dopamine is released, it creates feelings of pleasure and reward, which motivates you to repeat specific behaviors, while low levels of dopamine are linked to reduced motivation and decreased enthusiasm, which is why it's key to keep productive. I've developed a technique called the FRF method that you can use in conjunction with meditation. But first, to maximize focus and concentration, let's take a look at smart drugs and nootropics because the two work synergistically. Nootropics are drugs or natural supplements and other substances that enhance cognitive function, memory, creativity, energy, and motivation in healthy individuals. My top nootropics are L-tyrosine and L-theanine, which I've covered at length in other videos on this channel. So let's take a look at a category of smart drugs in this video called racetams, but in particular, piracetam. Piracetam is a derivative of GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter which helps to reduce neuronal excitability. It's also been clinically used to reduce anxiety and improve mood. I specifically used this one when I had to review drafts of both of my books. My record, 4 hours to review word for word one book that was 90,000 words long before I hit approval on it for the publisher. Normally I would warn against using piracetam because there's a serious lack of regulation when it comes to nootropics and their strength in this particular area. But there is one company that I can highly recommend. Check out the details below. Ultimately, you need a personalized protocol for superhuman focus, and I'm going to get to that shortly. But next, we need to train your brain for the task at hand. This is where we pull from the fitness world the principle of specificity, otherwise known as SAID, which stands for specific adaptations to imposed demands. It's a fundamental principle of training that dictates that the body will adapt accordingly to the stress or stimulus that's present, but in this case, we're going to apply it to your brain. Which brings us to 4, the FRF method. First, let me ask you this. When was the last time you mentally rehearsed doing what you needed to do to complete your work or achieve a specific goal, like an athlete would do? I want you to really think about it. If the answer is never, it's most likely why you're working really hard, but your work never pays off. So here's the basics of how it works. The FRF method stands for fast forward, rewind, and fast forward. You picture a goal you want to work on, then you close your eyes and visually fast forward the work you need to do in your mind, rewind it, fast forward, and rewind. You do this up to 10 times. A few things happen here. First of all, you're doing the work in your mind before you do it in the real world. So when you sit down to do the task, you enter a state of flow. And because you made clear to your brain what to expect, you turn off your fight or flight response, which we discussed in step 1. In doing this, you're applying the principle of specificity. You've told your brain specifically what has to happen and it has to adapt to it. This eliminates all fear around the task or goal that would have typically triggered procrastination as well as avoidance behavior. Without this, I never would have been able to write 2 books in 9 months. In fact, I've even recorded my own visualizations using the FRF method myself, and my members do it daily. It quite literally takes 10 to 15 minutes to do each day. When you combine this with the other steps, you end up mastering your mind so you can have superhuman focus. To recap, we've covered the top 3 mistakes people make and 4 out of the 7 ways to have superhuman focus. And if you want to access the rest and my personal protocols, get the full list of nootropics I recommend, my visualizations that use the FRF method, and techniques for regulating your energy and emotion, check out my brand new workshop, the Biohacker's Guide to Superhuman Focus, where you'll get access to all of it, including interactive tools that pinpoints what's kneecapping your psychology. Click the link below to check it out.